All right, welcome back to the studio here for BTN TV. Once again, I'm Michael Baker, Executive Editor with BTN, and I am joined now by Eric Friedrichsen, who is with Emburse. How are you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing great, Michael.
Great.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
All
Glad
right.
to be here.
Our pleasure. So let's start out. I think a lot of people probably know what Emburse is, but for those who don't, maybe give us the quick summary.
Sure. Yeah, Emburse is a spend optimization company. So we're all about helping our customers optimize spend across all different types of indirect employee-driven spend, whether that's travel and expenses, whether that's invoices, or whether that's even things that we call long-tail spend or team spend, like software as a service contracts or advertising spend, for example.
Well, great. So now you've had some new launches, specifically on the travel side, over the last several months. So talk to us about those.
Sure. Well, overall, Emburse very much believes in providing a tailored solution for the individual customer needs. And so we've got our enterprise expense management and invoice solution, which we call Emburse Chrome River. We've got our mid-market solution, which we call Emburse Certify. And then we've got our small business solution, which we call Emburse Spend. And so Emburse Spend is actually one of the recent products that we put out. Emburse Spend is designed to have a very tightly integrated experience between the card and the reconciliation, so that if you and I go to lunch, for example, and I use my Emburse corporate card, I can pay for that corporate card when the bill comes. I can use that corporate card to pay for our meal when the card comes, and I'll get a message on my phone, a notification that says, Eric, it looks like you and Michael went to lunch to talk about the future of business travel. Is that true? And if I say yes, I'm done. Everything gets taken care of for me. There's no expense report to be filed. There's no approval process to be done, because we're leveraging all of the machine learning and all the data feeds to automatically process all of that for us. So that's one of the great things about Emburse Spend. We also have our enterprise customers starting to use Emburse Spend for use cases around purchasing cards. So many of them that today are using a purchasing card that an administrator uses or a manager uses to share within their department to make purchases. We now can issue individual virtual cards or plastic cards on a request or pre-approval basis. So if you want to go buy office supplies, or you want to go pay for a software contract, or whatever the case might be, you can actually request that card right through Emburse, and we will issue that virtual card or that plastic card so that you can go pay for that and not have to worry about all the complicated reconciliation that typically comes from a purchasing card process.
Absolutely, and the company's getting better data on the back end from that.
Much better data, oftentimes rebates that come with that, especially in the United States and in some parts of Europe. And so, yeah, it's a much better experience and much more cost effective as well. So that's one of the products.
All right, great. And then also you had the acquisition of Roadmap fairly recently, and you've done some things with that and have had a new product launch. So tell us about Emburse Go.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think many of your listeners probably know the team from Roadmap. Just an amazing team. They joined the Emburse family over a year ago now. And we have taken Roadmap and we've actually migrated it to the Emburse platform. So I mentioned before that we've got tailored solutions for expense management and AP automation depending on the segment. Most of our innovation really happens at the Emburse platform level, and the Roadmap solution is a great example. So now we've released it as Emburse Go. So we've got Emburse Go Premier, which works with very large customers, and some of those are Nike and Adidas and Microsoft, for example, and they have a very tailored solution so that they can provide a traveler companion, essentially a companion in their pocket as their employees travel. And then we've got regular Emburse Go, which is made available for all of our mid-market customers. So at Emburse, we've got over 18,000 customers across the globe. When we brought in Roadmap, they had 15 customers, but they were really big, exciting customers. We wanted to take that awesome traveler companion technology and make it available to all of our customers across the globe, and that's the release of Emburse Go.
Okay, great. So we see a lot of more focus on trying to provide traveler happiness and trying to make sure travelers are satisfied. So what's the role of the expense company in ensuring traveler happiness?
That's a great question. A couple of things. First of all, Emburse Go is a great tool when somebody is on a trip. And so we'll take all of the feeds from your TMC, from your online booking tool, from a variety of other data sources right into the Emburse Go app, so that before you're on your trip and then when you're on your trip, you as a traveler have better productivity, you feel safer, you're more comfortable, because everything is all in one place. So it's your itinerary information, but it's also things like, am I going somewhere that's safe? Is there a terrorist threat? Is there a higher threat of COVID in this particular location? To things that make life better. Where should I go eat tonight? Well, we will serve up to you which restaurants that your fellow employees like to eat in that location that you're going to. Or perhaps, like me and a lot of other hybrid supercommuters these days, a lot of times our customers' employees are traveling to go to offices to see other employees now that so many people are working remotely and not in an office city. And many times I forget how to get into the office. What's the office location? How do I get in? What's the security code? And so all of that is available also through the Emburse Go app. So those are some big parts of traveler happiness, productivity, safety. Another thing that's important to a lot of our customers' employees is the environment. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for ways to try to do more in terms of minimizing their carbon impact when they travel. And so through the Emburse Go app, we've got the ability to show your carbon footprint. So we're illustrating to you in a very relatable way. So not just your CO2 emissions, but an estimate for the number of plastic grocery bags that you're using while you're on your trip. Wow. So that you really have a better sense for what your impact is, and you can try to make better decisions while you're on the road.
Wow, so it kind of works both on the front end and the back end, doesn't it? So where you can make decisions, for what suppliers you want to use, or kind of what you do during travel, and then kind of look afterwards and say, hey, I had this impact, and maybe next time I should be doing this. So
that's great. Right. That's an excellent point. And so our Emburse Analytics solution, which is built at the Emburse platform level across all of our solutions, had already been able to provide post-trip analysis in terms of your carbon impact, but now we can, per your point, do it while you're on your trip, mm-hmm. and potentially give you a chance to make a difference while you're still on your trip.
All right, excellent. So let's talk a bit more about the payment and expense side, and we hear a lot of people declaring the end of the expense report, and obviously there still has to be some sort of monitoring and ledgering within a company. So what does the end of an expense report really mean?
Yeah, well listen, that's our goal. So our mission as a company is to humanize work for our customers. And that means we're trying to remove all of the mundane tasks that our customers' employees do on a day-to-day basis so that they can get back to focus on what matters most, whether it's the mission of their company, whether it's spending more time with their communities or spending more time with their families. Ultimately, that's our mission as a company. And a big part of that is trying to make the expense report write itself, or literally make it go away. And we're doing a lot. I explained the example when you use your Emburse card, how automated that process can be. We truly believe that between leveraging machine learning and AI and all of the different data feeds that we're starting to get in from your own systems as well as partner systems, whether that's TMCs, your calendar, your HR system, your policies, and then leveraging machine learning to look at trends in policy violations and fraud rules, that we think over 80% of transactions that go through Emburse systems in the near future will be completely automated, so you won't need an expense report at all for 80% of those transactions. 100%, that'll be a little harder, but I think we can get to 80% soon.
Sure. And what are kind of the biggest challenges? I know hotels traditionally have been a big challenge in terms of the data that you get, and you have to kind of break down, itemize the taxes versus the rates and food and all that sort of thing. But what are some of the big obstacles
I think
that
you
you're
nailed
facing?
it, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hotels are absolutely the biggest challenge. The air, the car's much easier. Certainly meals and other expenditures are pretty simple, but when it gets to the hotel folio, that's the one. We obviously have a lot of that capability built in with Emburse, but depending on the governmental guidelines and the policies for you and your organization and your location, that one's a little trickier one.
Absolutely. So let's kind of talk some big picture now. We're fortunately seeing restrictions start to ease up around the world, even if we're not through with COVID, but we are. The trend does seem to be towards lighter restrictions, and travel certainly is bumping up if you've been to any airport lately. Yeah. You're seeing that. But we're also facing some pressure from inflation and some of the other pressures and global political unrest and such. So kind of what's your outlook for the business travel industry?
Yeah, well, I mean, first what I would share with you is that, we've got, I mentioned we've got, 18,000 customers. We've got 9 million users and $65 billion in spend that goes through our platform. And that's, booked data, expense data, card data. So we have a lot of access to data. And what we're clearly seeing in that data is that people are getting back on the road for business travel. And while things aren't quite exactly where they were before COVID, the return has been pretty dramatic over the last few months. Not maybe as fast in the international travel side, but certainly domestically within the countries that we serve, we've seen travel pick up dramatically. And we've seen some interesting anomalies. I mentioned earlier the hybrid supercommuter. So we're seeing our customers' employees travel just to go to offices, just to meet with their other employees, their coworkers. And many of our customers, many companies out there have reduced their real estate expenses and they've increased their travel budget to go facilitate that. And we're actually seeing that in our travel data. We're seeing longer trips, we're seeing nicer trips, and we are also seeing that people are taking portions of their trips and not expensing those portions. So we're expecting that there's more leisure travel that's also attached to some of the business travel. So those are some of the trends that we've been seeing lately. Now, if you think about, what could happen if we go into a recession, certainly there's a chance that some more business travel might get suppressed. But what I would say right now is there is such a backlog, and we still are in an environment where we're part of the Great Recession. There's a big backlog on hiring for many people. We really, truly do think our customers are going to continue to travel. They're going to continue to increase their travel. Potentially, if there's a recession, it may not increase it as high of a rate, but we certainly expect it to continue to go up.
All right, well, thank you, Eric. It's great to end on a positive note. Thank you so much for your time today.
Sounds great. Good to see you, Michael. Thank you.
Wonderful.